people don't just buy you, they buy how sold you are and what you sell. If you and I had the cure to cancer, right, and we get rejected, we're not gonna get pissed off when people turn us down.
Yeah.
We're gonna feel sorry for them. Prospects expect salespeople to basically kiss. I don't do that. Like, you guys need this more than I do, okay? I called her out bluntly. I said it. I'm like, I don't mean to be rude. I'm assuming your husband doesn't make more than $200,000 a year. And my big thing, Javi, is it's the biggest thing that we need in the industry, in any industry, is.
Welcome back to the Wealthy Business Podcast. I'm your host, Javi Chavez. On this episode, I have sales training expert Nick Nascimento. We talk about the difference between influence and manipulation, how to build a 7-figure sales team, and the struggles that he's had going door to door to now building a very successful coaching business. So it's a great one. I'm super excited. Let's jump into it.
I mean, sales is all about just communicating your idea. So when we have all these changes and these new ideas, how can I frame it in such a way that I can get the team to get bought in or get on board?
I like that.
Right. So yeah, again, everything's sales.
Yeah,
So.
it is. Everything is sales. Influence is everywhere. Whether you hate it or love it, like, influence matters. You could be
100%.
doctor, dentist, your mom, dad, like, you're selling people. It's, for me, like, the difference between manipulation and like genuine influence, integrous influence, is what I call it, is the intent. Like, if we could be very persuasive people, and we are. And if we have good intent, that's not, we're not using manipulation.
Yep.
'Cause we want a win-win situation. Now, if we try to create a win-lose, then you're manipulating somebody.
Exactly. Right? And so I heard this where it's like, with influence, you're just, sharing yourself, but like manipulation is there's like some sort of ulterior motive.
There's an agenda.
There's an agenda.
Yeah.
And that does not benefit both parties involved.
Both parties, yeah. You can have an agenda, but if it's to benefit both parties, then that's
Exactly.
a win-win, which is not manipulation. That's a good thing.
100%. So talk to me about you, man. So like you have your team that you're building out, or that's built out.
Yeah.
Like how did you?
Well, we're still building out. We're small.
Yeah.
We're small, but we're pumped. Like, small in numbers, but our revenue's high.
Yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
And then what's the plan? Are you guys trying to expand or?
Yeah, so we got 2 businesses right now. We got Sparta Solar, and the vision with that is keep it as small as we can and pump out as many deals as we can. So our number one thing, like in our industry, it's just recruiting bodies. It's like, hey, you got a pulse. Like, the interview is, let's check your pulse. Okay, he's got a pulse. You're hired, right?
100%.
And so I'm very anti that. That's hence the name Sparta. Like, we want an elite group of people. And so I told you, with just 2 of us, we're outperforming more than 20 guys in our space. And so we want to keep that. We want to keep the culture kind of tight, similar to Andy Elliot, but a little bit different. Yeah. Not as like hard closer, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A little bit more empathy in there, I'd say.
Good.
And genuine communication. I guess the best way I could describe our culture is a mix of Andy Elliot and Jeremy Minor. I'm like a hybrid of both.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because I've met with both of them, and our team definitely more aligns with like the Jeremy Minor side.
Yeah, same.
Sometimes I do wish we had a little bit more Andy Elliot.
Yeah, we could all use a little bit of that. Like, why are we being a bunch of pussies, you know?
Yeah, it's like, come on, guys. Like,
man up.
Like make the freaking calls.
I know. You need a little bit of that.
I agree. And that's like where that's probably been the biggest challenge, is finding the balance between like, how hard do we like push and crack the whip, and then versus like it's the carrot or the stick model, right? It's like, how like are we just gonna like throw money at these people, or like are we just gonna like make more dials, like talk to more people, and then obviously we're targeted with our approach, and we make sure that like our team has good training and has the scripts that they need and all that type of stuff. But like, so how do you navigate that? Like,
okay, dude, so I can geek out on this with you. Ready?
Yep.
So this could be like a 2-hour conversation.
I'm ready.
We'll keep it shorter. All right. So just had Jeremy Minor on my podcast. It's amazing. I love him. I respect his training more than Andy Elliott, and I respect Andy Elliott as a person probably more. And so hopefully I don't take offense to that. I'm just transparent as is. But with that, the big thing with what were we just talking about? Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Carrot stick, how to motivate people. Like,
okay, yes. So there's basically sales training is like you're talking about how to sell. Okay, there's the why, there's how, and there's what. The what is the product, the service. The how is like how to talk, nonverbal communication, paraverbal communication, one-liners, how to overcome objections. Right. The why is what's the impact for the customer? Like, why are you actually selling? So there's two whys. We always talk about the why for the individual, like Simon Sinek. That's important. But then you have the why for people you're talking to. We're influencing people. Why? We don't ask that question enough. And when you start with that, I mean, Simon Sinek says start with why.
Yep.
Everybody in the sales industry is starting with how. how to close better, how to sell better. If you Google or YouTube, how do I make $100,000 a month, or how do I make $1 million a year in sales, or how to make $100K a year in sales, everything is going to be how to.
Yeah.
And my big thing, Javi, is it's the biggest thing that we need in the industry, in any industry, is why. Like, what's the impact of the customer? Obsess on that. If your team obsess on that, we don't need to motivate them. If you and I had the cure to cancer, right? And we're pitching that, selling that, and we get rejected, we're not going to get pissed off when people turn us down.
Yeah.
We're going to feel sorry for them. And that's how I am when I sell my products and services. When people say sorry, I'm like, no, I call them out.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't say sorry to me, Mr. Prospect. Like, I'm sorry for you. I'm not the
100%.
bigger loser. Right? I might make $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 on this, but you have about $60K on the line. So you need that conviction.
No, absolutely. And I think you only get that through belief in your product, belief in your service. So like, how did you discover like your why? So like, why? Go ahead.
Yeah. So again, you got your personal why, and then you have the why for the
why for the business,
and the prospect, and mostly the prospect, right? But it's all related. So when I was selling solar, this was actually last year, I was making about $20,000 a month, which is pretty good, but there's a lot of guys that do a lot better. And I knew that. I knew there were guys making over $1 million a year.
And I 20K a month, sorry. Was that solo or was that with your team?
Solo.
Yeah, okay,
Solo, yeah.
Yep.
And so I knew guys were making a lot more than me, and I knew I was very talented. And so I'm like, why am I not making more? So first thing I did was I found the best in the industry. I got proximity. It's power and proximity, and to study and learn from them, right? And what I noticed was, and it validated this principle, it wasn't the one-liners, the things he was saying, it was the conviction that he had. And I'm like, okay, I got to dig more to find out this conviction and why he's selling so well. And a lot of it was related to urgency and scarcity, a lot. And as you know, Robert Cialdini, it's one of the major influencers for anybody, is urgency and scarcity, right? We could paint a problem so bad and give such a good solution, but if there's no urgency and scarcity, why are they going to pull the trigger now? And so I connected the dots with that, and then the product passion. And understanding that not just, hey, there's a sale and the sale's ending, right? Like, but for solar, there's a legitimate thing. Like it gets worse every year. And so when I was selling last year, looking forward to this year, I knew it wasn't going to be the same opportunity. And here we are today, Javi, and that's manifested true.
So what do you mean by that? So like, are you saying like the rebates and the rates?
So the rebates have gotten better. Okay? But what changes are the policies to store power on the grid. The problem with solar is energy storage. Okay. You have to finance a huge solar system. Okay. And then if you don't have net metering, you have to buy a battery. Those are $15,000 each.
Wow, okay.
Most homes need 1 to 2. And so do the math. That's a lot of money. Net metering allows them to pump power back on the grid. And so I didn't understand all this stuff with net metering and how it works. And there's a capacity limit because our grid was designed to store power one way, not two ways. And that's what net metering is. It's pumping power backwards. And so they usually cut programs around 10, 15, 20%. Okay. And so I didn't know this. And I'm like, holy cow, I've been pitching the wrong thing. And then the other thing is understanding finance and the world of investing in real estate and, building equity, owning assets instead of renting, right? These things all apply to solar. And so just gathering information related to finance, related to solar, and related to the industry, and becoming an expert in that, and then seeing what other people are doing, right? When I see what other guys do, I'm like, okay, he's human, he's got a heartbeat, I can do that. It's possible. And so I just got to extract how they're doing it. And so this got me the conviction. I talk about confidence versus conviction. There's a huge difference. Everybody that has confidence sells well, but people who have conviction are freaks.
Absolutely.
And people don't just buy you, they buy how sold you are and what you sell. And so I always say you will sell to the degree that you're sold.
100%.
And so that whole time I was getting around this guy, proximity, I was getting more sold. And this is what we see as a huge problem, hobbies. People sell shit that they don't believe in.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason, like, so I sold cars, I've sold things that, like, again, like, I'm not passionate about this stuff, and my performance wasn't as good as, like, for example, here, right? Where I started off, just to backtrack quickly, like, I started off as one of Ryan's students. Like, I bought his program, I learned how to flip houses, and I started doing it, started seeing a ton of success. Yeah. And then so when he asked me to come work for him, I was like,
it was an organic sale.
Yeah, right? It really was. Yeah. It was a no-brainer when he's like, dude, come work for me. And then, like, so whenever it's rare that I hop on the phone these days, but, like, whenever I do, it's so easy for me to sell the product because I'm so convicted. I've seen what's done for my life. I've seen what's done for other people's lives. Yep. And then now to backtrack to what you were saying, with, it sounds like you were just becoming the expert in your industry, right? All the best salespeople that I see, they are so well educated on not necessarily just their product, the benefits of their product, and then also the industry as well, right?
Absolutely.
And so, like you mentioned, you became an expert in the finance side, you became an expert in the product and in the necessarily like the benefits that came into it too. So, like, how do you
make sure that your team is also training to be the experts, not just on, sales, but also, the total industry as well.
So yeah, this is exact. So we're just onboarding a couple new guys right now.
Yeah.
And at the onboard phase, for the first several weeks, I set the standard. And nothing of what we trained them on is sales technique. It's purely product and passion. My whole intent is to get them so damn sold on the product. So I want these guys like oozing conviction, right?
Yeah.
And you have conviction. Here's how you know if you have it. Okay. So for any salespeople wondering like, oh, I'm sold. Like, here's how you know if you really are sold. Would you sell your family?
That's good.
Would you sell your family? Another one is, or do you own it yourself? Dude, I remember running to this guy selling solar, or this lady, and pulling up to her. She's unloading groceries out of her car, right? And she's like, "Are you solar?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, she's like, "We're good. My husband sells solar." I was like, "Oh, you guys must rent here, right?" "No, we own the home." I'm like, so guess what I did? I walked over and looked at the roof. I'm like, surely there's going to be panels there, right? That's why she's saying we're good. No panels.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I said, "Ma'am, like, I'm no offense, but how come you guys don't have panels on your roof?" And she's like, "It just doesn't make sense." I'm like, "I've ran the numbers out here. It makes sense. You guys just haven't done the homework." And then I called her out bluntly. I said, "I'm like, I don't mean to be rude, but I'm assuming your husband doesn't make more than $200,000 a year."
I love it.
She didn't respond.
Did you close it?
No, I did not. Did not get that deal. That was okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
you walked away with conviction.
I walked away with more conviction, and I'm like, this is crazy. How many people we got to see doing this? You know? And so people go into a job because they see guys making a ton of money doing it, right? And that's fine. It's a job. But sales is different. It's not just a job. You are moving people, right? And you're getting compensated because you're adding value. And the value add is usually should be 10x what you make. Sure. That's my personal belief.
I agree.
And so that people have the wrong framework. They see somebody, they see Javi doing well. They're like, "Dude, dang, you're driving a nice car. Like, you're making tons of money." And and companies get caught in that trap of doing the same thing. I did the same thing when I was 24. I bought a supercar.
Nice.
And I thought it was nice. It's not nice.
How long was in the shop?
What do you mean?
Like, did you have issues with it or anything?
No, nothing.
Then why wasn't it nice?
I loved it. It's just the ego. It took the ego too high.
Yeah, the
ego trip, and it attracts the wrong people.
For sure.
And it's exactly this. It gets people. It gets them sold on making money, not helping people. You see?
So. I would agree, because then you start needing to make money for the wrong reasons, and so I get that. And so, how do you attract the right people now?
By working on myself.
Okay.
I'm obsessed about it. And here's the thing: is it's with selling, with recruiting. Like I'm not actively seeking to pull people in. I want to attract them.
Yeah,
that's it. And the reality is I obsessively invest in myself with coaching, personal development, hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, and I want to make that eventually millions. But because I see a higher ROI with that, with attracting people. Right?
What's been the best investment you made this year in yourself?
So it started last year, actually. Let me tell you this story. So I met my mentor, Chris Crone. He lives in Utah.
Wow, Chris.
Yeah, Chris is amazing. So at that time, I had just gotten divorced about a year into the divorce, 3 kids, had built a successful pest control company, sold it, but also had a lot of failures in my career as well, and then with my family. And so I had a lot of limiting beliefs that, hey, I can't have success professionally, like make a lot of money, have a good family. And then I wasn't in good shape at all. I wasn't fat, but I wasn't fit either. And so then I met Chris, and I'm like, when you see someone like that, you're like, it's possible.
For sure.
Again,
he has like crazy energy too.
Oh, yeah.
Like he just he walks into a room and it's like oozing.
It's all the time.
Yeah.
All the time he's like that. And so anyways, it was a 3-day event in person. This another thing, I love the events. There's proximity in that power. There's power in that proximity. But getting around him, I had a very strong, it was a spiritual impression for me. Like goosebumps, spirit, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
It was very strong. And I knew I needed to get around him. And sure enough, the next day he was doing a donation, raising money for charity. And I donated, got proximity, got on his jet with him a few times. And I got to see that, hey, this is the real deal. So what was your question again, Javi?
So what was the best investment you made?
Oh, yeah. So this turned into a few things for me. So I told Chris my goal is to make $1 million. He said, Nick, go do that. And he hired me as president of sales for one of the solar companies. It was actually a mistake. We can talk about it another time. But he said, go make $1 million, but I want you to transform your body and then build amazing relationships while you're at it. And then he told me his whole framework for those three things: health, wealth, and relationships. And relationships, your first shouldn't be your spouse, partner, or God. It should be you. And so that was a big mindset shift for me. And so, when you see someone like that you respect, not just financially, but they have a good family and they have what you want. I always tell Michaela, my girlfriend, like, there's no filter with what he tells me. And there's very few people like that. When I hear things from Grant Cardone, I got a filter. When I hear things from just different people, there's a filter, right? But Chris is one of the few in my life that I'm grateful that there's no filter. I can take advice from freely. And so that was a huge investment. So I copied. Here's what fascinated me is when I was on the jet with him, he said, Nick, I've never had somebody take notes like you do on everything I'm saying. And he said, I did the same thing with Tony Robbins.
Interesting.
And he said, people don't have like this ego where they still won't do what he says. And so I'm like, I'm going to do everything he says verbatim. And so I found out who his fitness coach was. I hired the same guy. I found out as much as I could about his life and just duplicated my own life. And so the last year has been really good. I have an amazing relationship with this woman here. She's came into my life.
Love it.
A lot of things have gone a lot better, and not just a better relationships, but my income has soared, and the influence, and a lot of opportunities. And I've transformed my health, which has also increased my energy. So kind of cool.
So sweet. Yeah. And this is another thing that I learned from sales, and that's applied to now business too, is don't reinvent the wheel. Like Chris he's giving you the playbook, right? Like there's no need to do anything different than what he's done. And that's, I think, the biggest issue that people get into is like they let their ego get in the way. Like, I might be smarter. I'm gonna do it a little different. And then they don't get the same results. And I'm like, there's a reason why. You just don't reinvent the wheel. Listen to what the mentor's saying because he's done it, right? And he's actively doing it, which I think is also important. And so talk to me about your health. So like, what does that look like?
So just, you got the fitness side and then you got the nutrition. So,
what are you doing fitness wise?
Just hit the gym, weightlifting, weight training, a little bit of cardio, and red light, sauna.
How is the red light, by the way? Because
awesome.
I've been so curious and I want to start doing it.
So
Is it worth it?
It's worth it. Yeah, it takes a couple weeks to build up, but it activates the mitochondria, which is the cell, the powerhouse of your body, for energy.
Yep, I remember that from 7th grade.
From 7th grade, yeah.
That's the only thing that I kept. Yeah. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Yep.
So I had on my podcast one of the former president of 10X Health before Gary Brecka came in. Yeah. And unfortunately, we couldn't publish the podcast for legal reasons. But anyways, he talked about there's like the 3 superhuman things. Be quick on this, but there's 3 things that are like superhuman hacking. Red light therapy is one of them, breathing, and then hyperbaric chamber. So like meditation with the alternative hyperbaric chamber is basically separating the red blood cells. Yep. You can do that by sitting on the ground, breathing, oxygenating, and So.
Nice.
Yeah, that weight training every day, and then I do meal prep, which for salespeople is huge because your time is valuable.
For sure.
And so I don't like wasting my time, and so I have the meals ready to go.
Yep.
I don't count macros; they're already pre-counted for me. So
yeah, I think that's another important thing for a lot of just entrepreneurs, salespeople is to just maximize your time and spend your time doing the thing that's going to make you the most money.
Yeah.
Right. So like for me, same thing. Like I don't cook. I have a meal prep company. They deliver food to me, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And what we've done too with our sales team is, and we actually just implemented this. We should have done this a long time ago. Is now we have virtual assistants taking care of all of their admin.
Look at that.
So they don't have to do any more. Like this. Like at least for you might not. How much admin does your team have to do? Not a lot, right?
We do not a ton. We try to delegate as much as we can out. Yeah. Outsource it.
So for us, right, they're all in front of a computer, right? So they have to update the CRM very frequently and all this type of stuff. And there's a lot of room for error, especially when historically salespeople aren't the most detail oriented. So there's always something that gets missed, whatever. There's an extra zero. All of a sudden they sold $250,000 instead of like 25,000. You know what I mean? So stuff like that. And so now we just like, you know what, guys, just go talk to people. Yeah. Like we're going to have somebody clean up your mess in the back end.
Smart.
And just go that way you can spend all your time on Zoom, on the phone, and it makes it so much easier.
Dude, so I mean, this is a principle that some people are like, well, no, I want to be like, hold my customer's hand. And I love that. I love that. I agree with that. But it doesn't mean you can't work with a team.
Oh, for sure.
It's the assembly line, right?
Yeah.
The assembly line is not just for cars. It's for a lot of parts of business. And there's different activities that you have skill sets for. If you're in sales, you're probably really good with people. So we should maximize the time that you are in front of people. Jim Rohn said you have minor time is taking notes on prospects, CRMs, right? Setting goals on prospects. Major time is time in front of the prospect. And if you look at a sales rep's calendar and actually see how much time is this guy in front of prospects, it's usually less than 50%.
Exactly.
And so how can we increase that? If we can just go from 50 to 70%, we're not just going to increase sales by 20%. You'll usually see a 30, 40% increase because of momentum.
For sure.
So,
and that's the same thing. So we had a big issue where we were having probably a 60% show rate for our booked appointments, right?
Okay.
And that's pretty industry average for this info product space and all that. So we're okay, well, how do we maximize their time? So now we're double booking on calendars. We have an appointment manager who's dishing everything out like a point guard, just sending leads, live leads everywhere. So same idea where we're just trying to maximize how much time they're spent doing the thing that they're the best at.
That being
right? Yeah, exactly. And so it's good for them. They make more money, which in turn makes the company more money, and they're more fulfilled. They're having more fun because most salespeople, unless you're introverted, I'd say most people get energy by talking to people, and they're going to get more energy when they close deals.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a win-win for everybody.
It is.
And so we try to do that for all the other businesses too, right? So it's where's the waste? How are we able to automate and change as much as possible, right?
Yeah.
So we just recently moved CRMs. We brought on 2 more tech people who are just automating our entire processes, because for a long time a lot of it was manual and it just didn't make sense for
which CRM do you guys use?
So we moved off HubSpot to now Go High Level.
Nice.
So we use Go High Level for all of our marketing, our admin, our fulfillment, and then we use Close.io for sales.
Okay, nice.
Reason being is just with salespeople, what we found when they were in HubSpot, there's so many different shiny things to touch and play with that
it's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming, and they just get lost in the sauce. So what we ended up doing is we just moved them over to Close, which is very bare bones in terms of sales, where it's just, dude, point, click, auto dial, and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Right? You update 1 or 2 things, and that's it. And with Go High Level, it's very similar, where there's a lot of features which are great for our marketing team, our operations team, but it doesn't make sense to have our sales guys in there.
Right.
So we just we have them operate it out of Close, and then we just pass information over to Go High Level.
Do you guys have reps? We use Go High Level too. Great CRM.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Do you guys have reps that are doing just outbound and just inbound, or do they do hybrid?
So it depends. Well, for right now, we're blessed that we have a great personal
brand. A lot of inbound.
brand. Yeah.
So you guys get a lot of inbound.
Yeah. So with the exception of our house flipping operation, which is actually pretty close to 50-50 inbound, outbound, everything that we do on the info and the agency side is all inbound. And that will either be through organic marketing. So, Ryan's great at filming the reels, which hey, if you want to learn more, DM me the word flip, right? So we get a lot of leads that way through organic, and then we do the same thing for paid. So some people would say paid is outbound, but it's inbound for us. So the majority is either through, so they don't do any outbound.
Nice.
But we get a lot of data. We get a lot of people. So they have to dial out to those. So there's a lot of qualification that goes on.
Nice.
And there's so a lot of our setting team, they're more filters, more so. It's hey, are you really financially qualified?
Right.
Are you really interested?
Yeah.
Then we're going to get you in with our closing team.
Nice.
With our house flipping operation, we run about between $50,000 to $100,000 a month in TV ads. So we've been running the same TV commercial with Ryan's face on it, I want to buy your house, right? And those have done really well for us. We haven't changed it. And so our best leads come that way. With 10 DLC and all these phone regulation and text regulation stuff, we've significantly decreased the amount of outbound that we're doing from cold calling and stuff like that. That was really good for us in 2020, 2021, but that's kind of fizzled out. So we do a lot of inbound. We've done door knocking in the past. It just gets hot in Vegas.
For which industry?
For our house flipping operation.
Okay, yeah, nice.
So all those guys, they're out hey, would you be interested in selling your house?
Yeah.
And doing that whole bit. And then we do have in-person appointments for that business. So that one, we have inside salespeople who are qualifying, and then they're booking appointments to now go out and talk to the seller and negotiate and then close the deal. And that way we can buy the house, fix it up, sell it, that kind of thing.
Okay, I love it. So your closers, that are getting the appointments, when they're not running appointments, no shows or something happens, what do they do at that time?
So up until now, they've either been following up or they sit around, right?
Okay,
and but just recently, so we've implemented double booking. So ideally, they are there. Like, if that person doesn't show, they should have another call on their calendar. And then we have like a hot leads channel where like our SDRs will, like, the second that a lead comes in, like, hey, is someone available? Like, can you take it right now? So we're trying to do like live transfers. And then if somebody, let's say somebody in this off chance that we double book and they both show, we have our appointment manager who's coming, and then we'll then dish it off to another closer.
I love it.
Ideally, no one's underutilized at any point.
I love that.
And so we've only been doing it for the last like 2 to 3 weeks, but it's been a game changer.
I would assume that's going to work very well.
Yeah, it's working really well.
And here, let me take a couple guesses why, because I've done this with my own myself, and it works very well. So scarcity applies to the prospects and your product, but it also applies to you and your schedule. Okay, if you're a hot commodity, your schedule is full, your salespeople are full, they're slammed, they speak with more authority, more conviction as well. Okay, and there's this whole thing with if you're kind of too desperate, commission breath, it's the biggest turnoff. That's the biggest turnoff for a prospect. And so when you kind of lean back, guess what happens? They lean in. They show more interest. And so there's this natural thing of like, hey, prospects expect salespeople to basically kiss ass, right? To bend over to their schedule. And I don't do that. And it's because I can't, because the schedule is too full. And if it's not too full, I find a way to fill it. So it is. That's my number one focus, is how can I get this schedule so full so that I have that leverage? That secret superpower leverage. And so I'm a big fan of double booking. Big fan. I actually, instead, I do not tell prospects, hey, we'll be here at 1:00. That doesn't happen. I say, I got a time window for you. Okay. It's between 1 and 2, and I'll show up anytime. I run these back to back. I got a lot of people I need to help. Okay. If I can't make it, I'll shoot you a text or reschedule with you. That likely it's about 50-50 that happens. Is that okay? If that does happen, I'll reach out to you the next day to reschedule. The ball's in my court. Ball's in my court. They know that they're speaking to an expert, right? And I'm not here to just kiss butt. I'm not desperate. I don't need their business. And the way I flip it on, I always flip it on prospects. Like, look here, I'm not here to, like, you guys need this more than I do. Okay. And so, because prospects will try to do the opposite to you, like, tell me why I should buy from you. I'm like, dude, you don't.
Don't.
I don't need. Don't. Like, tell me that your situation is better, right? Like, there's a reason you're talking to me, right? So I think it's huge. I love that you guys are double booking.
For sure. And you mentioned something too, like literally word for word in our script for like our appointment setting team. It's like, dude, we're not here to convince you. I'm not even here to educate you. I just want to see if you're a good fit for our program.
Bingo.
And like, so we start from the get go. Like, hey, we're just, because again, we're not only, because there is a level of some people who don't have a ton of lead flow. There's like a perceived, like they're trying to like make it seem that way, where it's like, yeah, my calendar's wide open, like internally, but they're like, yeah, like let me shut my calendar really quick, right? But for us, it's true. We have so many leads, and so for us, it's never been a leads problem. It's always been like a sales process and like just a sales problem, right? It's just like, how can we get our team, like, how do we filter through everything efficiently? And when I say problem, we're lucky, we do well. But it's like, if I could pinpoint like what is like our biggest challenge, it's always been that. So the team is luckily able to speak with, again, that conviction, and also that, it's like, dude, like I got another call in 10 minutes. Like, we're good. Like we don't need to move forward. Or you don't need to move forward if you don't want to. So what does your 2024 look like?
What do you mean?
Like in terms of like, what are your goals out for the business?
So for the business, so Sparta Solar, we're doing about $1 million in revenue per month. We want to take that. So most people set business like goals for, like in my industry, for like how many salespeople they want to have. I want to do as much revenue we can with the fewest amount of people possible, as I mentioned. So I want to be doing $5 million a month in revenue within the next few months with the fewest amount of people possible.
That's awesome.
So far we're on pace for that. And what we're doing too in our space, it's mostly door to door. We're expanding to virtual, mastering that. And so I have gotten coaching mentorship from the best in the industry. Paid a lot of money to get around them to steal all the golden nuggets. And so far it's working. And so now it's just duplicate, create SOPs, and duplicate myself and what we're doing. So that's for Sparta. And that is, I want it self-sufficient running without me. And then Excel Coaching is my sales training business. And that we are getting off the ground again. We did $250,000 in like our first month we launched last year. We closed it because I was too busy. And I got mentorship, and I'm like, okay, I got mentorship from Chris Crone, Russell Brunson, the two together. We're about to blow it up. So, Excel Coaching is basically an online sales training platform. We'll have masterminds, everything like that. So masterminds, in-person events, SalesCon. We might be working with Jeremy Miner on that. So
love it.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to send my guys to it. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Guys and girls.
Guys and girls, yep.
But yeah, so with the coaching, what's going to be the model? Are you guys going to do like, are you going to have tiers? Are you going to do one-on-one? Are you going to do, okay.
So here, the vision was to make coaching affordable because I saw how coaching impacted me. Part of the reason I went from $20,000 a month to $200,000 a month was I got around that coach. He coached me, right? And so most guys don't have the accountability and they can't afford the accountability and they're too afraid to invest in themselves. And so I'm trying to make it as affordable as possible. Okay, so you have basic training, the online course for $99 a month. You have a $297, $997, and $2,500 a month mastermind. And the accountability coaching, will there be a certain level that you'll be able to get at $297 a month? That doesn't really exist in the realm. And then long-term, we're going to be having industry-specific coaches. I've had one of the best. So Tony Robbins' sales guy is Sean Callaghy, close buddies with him. And Sean Callaghy came and gave a training to our solar company. I was president there. And it was abysmal.
Really?
Like, here's one of the most influential guys on sales, training my guys on how to knock doors. And I'm like cringing. I'm like, I'm going to have to tell these guys to ignore everything he just said.
No.
And so I've had a few moments like that from guys in different industries giving advice. And so sales really, like, there's a lot of macro things that are applied to everything, like dealing with people, mindset, right? But there are specific things on like one-liners or, things about how long your pitch should be, timing that do adjust. For example, Sean, in this case, bless his heart, he's amazing. He's too good at selling. And on the door, you don't need to build massive rapport. You don't need to, it's waste of it's a waste of time. On that first intro call, a discovery call, on a first door-to-door appointment, like, it's quick.
Yeah.
You don't need massive rapport. And so anyways, he did this whole thing, building tons of rapport. So it's industry specific. So going back to your question, we'll have coaches in every industry specific to help hold them accountable.
Love that.
So there's accountability side only, where it's a quick call. And then we have, we want guys that want further coaching, like, okay, how do I get to 30,000 a month plus? And that want more like technique coaching. Though we'll have one-on-one coach calls for those as well. That's the 1,000 a month. So yeah,
that's awesome. And talk to me about like how the transition to virtual has been, because I was actually going to ask you about that, because I talked to another person who was doing virtual solar and was crushing it, right? Because then they starting to go like nationwide, doing a bunch of other stuff too. So what challenges have you encountered?
So it's been hard and easy. Like, what's been easier is I thought it'd be very difficult to build rapport. The nice thing about being in person is you have that, especially when you build yourself up and like you take care of yourself, you win people's respect. And you can still do that over Zoom. Zoom is a huge edge up over the phone. But then also it's harder for people to kick you out of the home, right? And so, but one of the hardest things is I like to control the pipeline. And so to control the pipeline of virtual, we have to pay basically to get it, and which is fine, right? But that's basically what we're having to do. And so that's the hardest thing, is managing the pipeline so that it's hot. And we've worked through about 4 different channels of leads that I just basically kissed goodbye $20,000 and said, we're going to split test this just to learn as fast as I can. I don't care if we see returns on it, just let's go. And we've learned a lot the last month. And so we're getting a lot of momentum. So,
what have you learned?
I've learned which leads to not buy and which ones to buy. We've learned that the Facebook ads and the YouTube ads, those are working better for us than just buying preset and age leads. Because these age leads are recycled. They sell them to a lot of vendors, and these people are price shopping, right? They just look at you as a commodity. They don't care. Tell me the price, dude. And so that is the thing. That is the hardest thing on virtual, is you get the price shoppers.
For
right?
sure.
The little price horse.
And
so I'm proud of myself. I'm closing an Indian guy. So
nice. So there we go. That's probably one of the hardest ones to close, right?
He's awesome. We actually had rapport with him too. So I love Indian people so much. Seriously, it's just sometimes the challenge.
No, I get it, dude. And what I'm going to say. In sales, you talk to so many different types of people that you do start to stereotype.
You do.
It's unfortunate. But it truly is, right? Because and I've sold in so many different industries, to talk to so many different people, that you really start to categorize and put people into buckets.
It's true.
We can keep that.
I'm glad you can relate.
It's all good.
I don't think my audience would be too offended, to be honest. They'll probably relate to it.
You might gain a few followers from it. But Yeah. So as far as with the Facebook ads and stuff like that, are you the face or
not yet? That we were transitioning. So how I've done it. So I paid a lot of money to solar CEOs. This our mastermind group, and basically I came to them saying, "Hey, I'm going to learn from you guys," and I kind of did this with you guys as well.
Yeah.
I said, "I'm going to pay you, and I'll pay you extra. I'm going to learn everything you're doing, and then I'm going to duplicate it doing it in house."
For sure.
And I set the standard early on, and they're like, "We're not used to this." I'm like, "I know you're not used to it, and that's okay because I'm going to do it." Okay.
Yep.
So for the first, while we get our bearings, it's going to be too overwhelming to do all the ads ourselves with everything else I've got going on. And so I'm just taking the systems, duplicating their SOP, everything verbatim, and then just implementing. Once we get the momentum rolling, we start duplicating and getting reps to have a higher profit margin. Then I'll start doing in-house, right?
That's so huge. And so we did the exact same thing with our ad buying. So this year we've worked with 3 different agencies. And these agencies are like top notch. And the last one that we worked with, they were like, I'd say they are the best ad buying and like just marketing agency we've ever seen. And and again, we do pretty well as far as like digital marketing and stuff. Like I'd say,
yeah, definitely.
For in the industry, I would put us in the top like 2% of like digital marketers for sure.
You're being humble.
Yeah.
0.01.
Yeah. But we weren't in a place yet to bring on like the ads in house. It just wasn't where the team was ready. But now over the last year, we've just been like, you know what? We can probably do this ourselves. We've learned, we've copied the SOPs. We've seen what like a fully built out marketing team looks like. And so now we're finally ready to do it all in house because just like you mentioned, we took the last year and we invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in the form of like paying them plus bad ad buys and all the other stuff, right? Bad ROIs. And now we're like, okay, we're ready to finally bring that on and do it. And that's what we do with everything, right? I mean, we're lucky with Ryan where just like, people like Chris, who's spoken at WealthCon, Jeremy's spoken at WealthCon. Ryan has this network and, his podcast, and that's why podcasting is so important too, where it's like, you're able to bring on these high level guests and then you're able to get coached up for an hour and then build a relationship with them. And so anytime that we have a question about anything or we're trying to figure something out, we're like, oh, we know a guy for that. Like, how do we kick our sales team's ass? Like, let's call up Andy. Elliot. Yeah, we're ready to go. So whatever. And so you've talked about like quite a few mentors, which again, I think that's the biggest thing for anybody listening is like just get around a mentor.
Yeah, be the dumbest guy in the room.
Yeah, for sure. And figure out how to get into more rooms.
Yeah.
You got to pay or you got to add value or figure something out. Dude, that's
the thing. You got to, for once you get to a certain level, you got to pay or you got to really put yourself out there in a unique way, like podcasting, networking, going to events. But yeah, paying for proximity has a massive ROI.
Oh, for massive sure. ROI. Yeah. For us specifically, we've spent at least $250,000 this year in getting into specific rooms, masterminds, consultants, and that's not even including the stuff that we were paying for the agencies. Like we invest heavily in education, and I think that's why we're able to move so quickly, right? If you really think about it, we've only been doing the digital marketing thing for like 3 years.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely unreal.
It's pretty crazy. Ryan was posting on Facebook like in 2016, but like not the way he's doing it right now. We really started 2020 was the first time when like everything really started blowing up and that was all organic, right? He's making TikToks with his wife, doing like challenges and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she was doing the editing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then we've only been ad buying for really about 1.5 years, where everything prior to that was strictly organic marketing. That was when we only had like one or two salespeople. And then once we actually were flipping on ads, that's when we had to scale up and do everything that we've been doing. So it's a big learning curve, but we wouldn't have been able to do it as quickly as we have, as successfully as we have, if it wasn't for, again, the mentorships and just really paying to be in the room.
Yeah.
So are there any events that you're excited to go to in 2024?
WealthCon. For one.
Let's go.
And I'm not just kissing your butt. I'm saying that, but I'm actually excited. Yeah. I'm also going to Grant Cardone's 10X just to get around the community to see what I don't like and what I do like. Mm-hmm. And just learn, there's always, what was it? It was like one of the Carnegies, I think it said, every man is my superior in that I learn of him. Mm-hmm. And so I think it was someone wildly successful. It might've been Andrew Carnegie.
Yeah.
So
it's true though, right? Yeah. Because our business model is
it's similar to Cardone's in the sense where we have a lot of different businesses, personal brand, all that type of stuff. So we've been to the 10X stuff, and they do events really well.
Yeah.
Like they definitely spare no expense. And so we've learned a lot from them. And yeah, this WealthCon is gonna be cool. You got your boy Chris again. We have Tim Tebow, which I'm actually really excited for.
Dude, he's awesome.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, it's got a lot of the connection there with like the Christianity,
Yeah, I mean, we had this like service like at 7 I think it was like 7 or 8 a.m. So before the event, and like we didn't know how many people were gonna come or like what the turnout was gonna be, and it was crazy. Like so we had all the seating because it was ready to go, and so it started off like half the room was full, and we're like, wow, this is intense. By the end of it, the entire like I would say there was maybe like the last 2 rows were empty. Like
crazy.
So the whole thing was
filled.
Yeah, the whole thing was filled, and I turn around and I'm like,
whoa!
Like where did you all come from? And but yeah, it was really really cool. So like last time we had like a concert where like it started the worship service, and then we had Tim Ross like who spoke, and it was really really good. So we have another pastor coming in. Shoot, I forget his name, but it's gonna be awesome.
What are you guys calling that?
So it's still WealthCon.
Well, okay,
it's just part of WealthCon. So you'll see it on the agenda. It's like it says worship service.
Yeah, it's the worship. Yeah.
Yeah. So
the W in wealth. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's coming in, and that's going to be really really fun.
Dude,
So
I'm stoked.
yeah, it was a success because it started off like 3 events ago. Ryan's like, you know what? I'm just going to do a prayer in the beginning of the event, right? Open, like whoever wants to come. And so it was in a separate room, and there was like maybe if we had 1,000, there's like 100 people in the room. We're like, okay, like this is cool. Yeah. And then he did that for 2 events in a row. And then we did the full-on service. And we're like, all right, dude, let's see how it goes. And then, we had to figure out how to bring in different production. We had to figure out how to bring in instruments and set it all up on the stage, which is a fun challenge. And then, we had a great turnout. So now it's just going to be a regular thing every single time.
Dude, that is so cool.
Yeah. So
I love it. You guys
awesome.
are pioneering that.
Yeah. I mean,
that's really cool.
It is. And I'll be honest, like I wasn't, and still I'm not like super in touch with my faith in the way where like compared to like the way Ryan is.
Right.
But being here, I'm like, whoa, like this is pretty freaking
something
cool.
unique about that.
Yeah. So it's been fun.
It's awesome.
And it's really been interesting to see the level of people who have like come out. I don't want to say come out of the woodwork, but have really resonated with him putting himself out there online. Yeah. And like talking about his faith, because like you said, no one's really doing it.
Yeah.
And sure, we may have been like, and no one's doing it in the entrepreneurship space. Like, there are definitely people who are there are Christian influencers. I'm sure there are other faith-based influencers too. But no one's doing it in the entrepreneurship space.
Yeah. So I love his video he made about like you could tell he's fired up. This was about a month or 2 ago. About how like you can't be a Christian and make lots of money.
Yeah.
I was like, let's go, dude, preach.
Yeah, well, because he would get like very early on, he would get a little bit of like, hey, he's like, dude, like how can you be Christian and like really be focused on money? So now like that's kind of his thing. And that's how we started Wealthy Kingdom too, which is like our network of Christian entrepreneurs. Yeah. So that's becoming a nonprofit this year. And so I forget how many Bible studies they started. I think it's like I want to say it's 100 all across the U.S., which is really, really cool. So that's part of it. And then they do like weekly Zoom calls with, we have a pastor on there, and they talk about just like, hey, like how to be Christian and make money.
Dude, I love it.
Yeah, it's cool.
A lot of people don't know this about our business, but we're secretly not converting people, but just improving their life through principles that apply in every way and transform them as people, which also transforms them as salespeople.
I love it.
I love what you guys are doing for the real estate community and just the creators and entrepreneurs. Or that's kind of similar to what we're doing with salespeople.
So Ryan talks about it too. So his book, The Wealthy Way, is basically like a Christian book just dressed up as a business book.
Yeah.
And so like his mission is really to like try to convert as many people as possible.
Yeah.
But he's just trying to do it in like a sly, sneaky way.
I don't know if him and Chris Crone like hit on this wavelength, but Chris is deep on this stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's why. I mean, Chris has been to like this is his second WealthCon with us that he's speaking at.
Yeah,
and I know that they've spent a bunch of time together. He's been on Ryan's podcast a couple times. So I don't know if they've talked about it, but I would guess they have.
Yeah.
Because they definitely are like on the same wavelength for it for sure.
Yeah.
So I think it's great. And I think there's just power in like once you are fully open about who you are on social media. I think for so long there's been
kind of like this like super polished look on social. Like
Yeah.
it's just kind of started when Instagram started having all these Instagram influencers and stuff.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to see, I think, a little bit more of a trend where people are just like, dude, like this is me. This
Yeah.
is like what I'm all about.
Just being real.
And you're connecting with more people. And
Yeah.
so you're bringing more people in. So are we going to see more Christian content from you?
As far as Christian, I don't know, but just me being real, absolutely.
Yeah.
So talking about the good, the bad, the ugly. Kate's helped us with that.
Love it.
And yeah,
Kate's good at that.
yeah, she is.
So how do you think like your faith has kind of navigated you being an entrepreneur?
So, well, yeah. So this might be an interesting, weird answer, but so I grew up, member of the Church of Jesus Christ, Mormon, right? And I love the church. When it started mission, that's where I learned how to sell. Not making any money. That's a great way to learn. But anyways, I had a lot of limiting beliefs within myself, and then people rub off on you, good and bad, especially family. And my ex-in-laws, and then just even my own family, there was a lot of, and they still project these limiting beliefs on me, okay, of exactly what we're talking about with Team T. This is why it resonates with me, with what you guys are doing with WellCon and everything, where you can't be a successful business person and be a faithful husband or a good husband, and let alone have a good health and live a long life.
Yeah.
So, and I was so convinced on this, dude. Like I left I had a lot of salespeople. I was on track to make over $1 million at age 24. And I left that to go start my own business. And then when I started my own business, I intentionally wasn't growing it too fast and keeping it small.
Interesting.
Because I was living with these limiting beliefs that I can't grow too much.
Do you think that was conscious or more on the subconscious?
It was totally subconscious.
Yeah.
But looking back retrospectively, it's so clear. But at the time, it's so subtle. Those influences that push you off the road or keep you on, they're so subtle.
Oh, for sure.
And they happen so slowly. And I always talk to Michaela, my girlfriend, about like, that's why I'm so careful with who's in my sphere, right? And I'm obsessed about it.
Yeah.
So
how did you begin the process of like identifying and then like shedding those limiting beliefs?
So it started with getting divorced. So like absolutely broken. And then rebuilding, it came from finding inspiration and hope through other people. It started with my former mentor and business partner, Brett Harker. He came into my life at my lowest point, and it was at a time where I was praying, like I was literally asking for him to come into my life, and like he wouldn't. And then sure enough, like at my lowest point, I said a prayer and he pops into my life. He says, "Nick, I felt like I need to reach out to you." So I'm like, okay, this is cool. Thank you, God. And we ended up starting a business together, started doing 7-figure selling, and that turned into Excel. And then he's like, you need to go off on your own and do your own. Like you've graduated my mentorship. And then the next was Chris Crone. And so again, seeing somebody that is living their life that in my mind at the time was contrary to what I said was possible. I literally said it was impossible.
Yeah.
And so that's why I said, I got to get approximate this guy to see if this is the real deal or if this is just fake. Yeah. And it's the real deal. Sure. so I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do this. Let's see if this is possible and start implementing for myself.
Yeah.
And we just need permission. Sometimes we just need somebody to tell us that it's okay. You can lean into your crazy obsessive nature. Just be yourself. I needed that because everybody from the outside was telling me, Nick, you're an obsessive freak. You're like, what, narcissistic, whatever it is, like, you're never satisfied. Like, what's wrong with you? Aren't you happy? I'm like, I'm super happy, and I'm happier when I work. It's just how I feel fulfilled. I want to give, I want to serve. I don't want to stop. I like, it makes me gag thinking the idea of retiring. Yeah. It's like you've missed the point, you 100%. Know? So that's what I'm fired up about. That's what I want to help people with.
Totally. Yeah. I think, actually it's funny. Kate and I talked about this too. Like, I think every entrepreneur does exhibit some like narcissistic tendencies to the untrained eye or to outside people, because like you are, you're so to other people, you're so focused on just your work and just your business, and you are, but it's because that's what you get fulfillment out of. That's what you get. It's what, like most entrepreneurs are builders, or just, they want to contribute. They want to build something that's gonna, impact a lot of people.
Dude, that's it. Let me interject right here. Okay. No. So the amount of work it takes to build something great, you literally don't have the capacity to do it unless you have something bigger motivating than just yourself.
For sure.
You'll give up. You'll quit. The amount of failure you go through in sales or as an entrepreneur, you will quit early unless there's something big that's not just related to you. Which means it's an impact related thing, which is ironic that people call those people narcissists. So.
Yeah, it is. And I think there are certain levels of success that you can achieve,
with the wrong motivations for sure.
Absolutely.
And actually, I think there are probably a ton of very successful people that have the wrong motivations, but they are still motivated by something outside of themselves.
Absolutely, yeah,
for sure. And so but I would agree with that. It's just so funny. But I think that everybody's kind of has that bone, and then to people who aren't thinking in that right mindset, then it's just going to be off-putting no matter what, right? I forget who says it, and I'm sure a lot of people have, where it's just like you see the things you don't like in other people, right? So when you are exhibiting certain qualities, there's going to be a person that's going to perceive it in the wrong way, right? So there's no point in worrying about what those people are thinking, because you're on your mission no matter what.
Yep. People project their own insecurities on you to make them feel better about themselves.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's a mic drop. I think we can end it right there, man. That was good. Cool.